What you're about to learn here, I've taught all the way out to Seattle, Portland, Corpus Christi, Chicago, down to Washington D.C. And some of the things that you're concerned about, everyone else has the same concerns, and they don't know anything about the fire escape. So fire escape sort of became like it's sort of like we call it the foster child of egress. You'll care about a lot of buildings, but the one thing that you sometimes totally forget about is whether or not the second means of egress is going. So you're from Concord, and what's
Brookline, New Hampshire.
Brookline? Any downtown fire escape to your knowledge?
We do. We have it on our town hall. We have an outdoor fire escape. You know, the old type. It's not covered,
Right.
or anything like that. There are a couple of buildings in town that do have. They're
Balconies
old,
and ladders, maybe.
well, they're old farmhouse type buildings that were built into apartments now, and they do have a fire escape going out. They are covered. They have a roof over them, but they're not enclosed. That
Right.
sort of thing.
Open to the weather. All
Open
the
to
time.
the weather, and that's a big thing.
Now, the biggest issue we're going to have, and now with Concord, you've got a great big downtown that has had a lot of buildings change over, and some of these fire escapes just disappeared. But then there's always some buildings that are older, 50, 75 years old, that they still have fire escapes as the means of egress on the back.
Right,
And-
we've got a lot of buildings that have the old metal style fire escapes going up the back of them. You know, the type where you go out and then the counterweight
Yeah,
lifts it.
they're called cantilever balanced stairs.
Right, and we've got a lot of those, but, don't really know a whole lot about them, structurally.
Can you recall the last time somebody asked you to inspect one, or what the norm is? Even, where you would find a code that would force somebody in that city to inspect that fire escape or repair it, unless it's just flagrant, like
I know there's-
smashed by a truck or something?
I know there's some things in NFPA 101, and I know there's an ANSI standard that covers fire escapes, but I don't really know a whole lot. That's why I'm here today.
Well, there's a lot of fire escape codes out there, believe it or not, and they always come down to two paragraphs. One paragraph says, very generally, in all the states, whether it be the state building code or a fire code, it says, all fire escapes must be structurally sound at all times. Another code says, you must maintain your fire escape at all times, which means keep it painted, and that's it. Every code in the United States, you have to sort of take off from there. So if it ain't something that's on the forefront, if it doesn't have a schedule, like sprinklers have a schedule. I want this building scheduled every year. Fire escapes are not on that type of a schedule. Elevators are on a schedule. Give me an elevator test every 2 years for you guys?
It's every year or two. Yeah.
Every year or two?
Yeah.
Otherwise, shut down your building.
Right.
So between sprinklers, alarms, God forbid a central station is not working, this building is down. It's shut down until that matter gets quickly resolved.
Right.
Now, all those things that we have, guess what's not on the list, which is what a fire escape is for. A fire escape is made for self-evacuation.
No.
It's not something you guys use. It's something you guys need in case of an emergency. Otherwise, you're going in the front door, you're going through all the normal ways. But in case of a bad situation, your guys need to get out. But what it's really made for is if the owners or the tenants in the building can't get out, they're supposed to use the fire escape to self-evacuate. So these things are really made for tenants and for firemen to use in a last-ditch effort when everything else has failed. And yet, for 50 to 75 years, nobody's been watching these.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you don't recall the last time you forced somebody with a violation to fix their fire escape?
This one here, the one at our town hall, I keep on them as far as we have a slate roof, and all the ice and snow gather right on it, so you can't open that second door from the auditorium.
But it's not on a checklist of any kind as far as the rest of the buildings in your town. You don't have some sort of checklist that says, you keep an eye on these.
It's basically me watching it, and if I see something happens, I gotta get on somebody to get that cleaned
And
off.
so you're the watchdog, and with all the other things going on in town. So what we're gonna talk about today is basically what you guys are forced into is that you have so much on your plate, and fire escapes have been ignored for 75 years before you anyway, so it didn't come to you as one of the main things, like, radon gas, is important, sprinklers are very important, and, structural adequacy of a roof during snow loads. I mean, you guys have all these disaster things that you always concern yourself about, and yet fire escapes is one of those that should get the attention, but here's the reason why it's not getting the attention is it very rarely gets used. It's like a parachute in my plane. It's like, I hope it works. But because the activity of a fire is so low that all of a sudden, even though you've got a hand grenade there, you never get to use it anyway. So it's basically, you let sleeping dogs lie, years go by, and it never really gets tested. So, but we're trying to tell you that now it's 50 to 75 years later, and these fire escapes have been basically rotting themselves to